Back to the show. I'm Todd. We got Andy with us. This is the Writer's Block, the one and the only. And today we're going to continue our 20 episode conversation about writing. Now, of course, yeah, 20 episodes. Can you believe it? This is episode 20. And we started this show way back in the day, having no idea where it was going to go or what it was going to be about, other than writing, of course. And here we are, beating all the odds. Everyone said, like, all the newspapers, they all said we were going to close up shop after episode 10. Here we are, episode 20. So the real question is, what are we going to talk about in episode 20? Now, there's a lot we could talk about because writing is such a grand, subject or topic to talk about. So, but we're going to narrow it down. We're going to talk about writing, of course, as I mentioned like 8 times already. But specifically, we're gonna talk about how our families reacted to our writing, when we finally said, hey, we're writers, we write, we have a book we're working on, we got a website, we're wanting to be a writer. Basically, what was the family's reaction to that? Did they laugh it off? Were they supportive? The whole 9 yards. So Andy, would you like to take it away, or would you rather I start? Because you look kind of.
I can start. It's not going to be very long because I don't really talk about it with my family. To be honest with you,
All right, bigger question then: do they know that you?
They do know that I write because I mentioned, hey, I'm probably gonna do some writing tonight, at least to my grandparents, and then I go, that's a good idea, blah blah blah. I don't. They know. My grandparents know that I'm trying to write a novel. But that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't really talk about it to a lot of people. I know to like the couple more friends really.
All right, well,
when I first started my website, actually, I had people reach out and they're like, oh, send so and so, your website URL so they can check it out. But that was when I first published the website, and now it's the novelty has worn off drastically. I was talking to I don't know, I was talking to somebody about it and comparing story 1 to story 15. The views, you can just, you're like, oh god. But I do have consistent. My aunt, who lives in Massachusetts, I'm pretty sure regularly reads my new stories. I honestly don't know if my parents do. Grandma and grandpa don't, just because they don't go on the computer. The only time they go on a computer is when grandma's on Facebook or checking the stock market, or email, or to buy plane tickets to go back to New York. That's the equivalent.
What more do you need in life?
And the computer is so slow. Like, you got to turn it on and then go check a half an hour later to see if the login window finally pops up.
I'm guessing. Yikes. Well, so I guess let's expand the question to include friends as well. Sounds like you've had more reactions from friends than
well, I think that's mostly because I have more friends on social media than my immediate family members.
True. Well, that's not necessarily just about social media outreach, but about like what a family member, like a parent, says, like, oh, you're right, why do you do that, or like any kind of question they ask, or any kind of
I haven't really gotten that. I don't know if I've never really gotten anything like that before. I don't know if I had explained it a long time ago and I don't remember, because that could be a possibility, or it's just one of the hobbies that I have. I don't have many, but that's one of them.
Yeah.
And it's become more of like a heavy, top tier hobby as of the last,
couple days,
year and a half. A couple days, year and a half now. Almost 2 years. So I feel it. I don't know. I know your family I feel like it has more in tune with it, only because, one reason, because of the book in your background,
There's a lot of books in my background.
Well, the one that has your name on it.
Oh, you mean this one right here?
Yeah.
Wow, how did that get there? Oh, that's some product placement right there. Jinkies. Well, I guess now that I think about it, reactions from my mom, uh, very very
So how did you
similar.
tell? So did you tell her that you were right, or how did it?
I'll be honest with you, I don't really remember.
See,
I don't remember exactly how she found out. I want to say I mentioned it to her because I remember her saying like, "Oh, well, let me buy your books," and I remember being like, "Don't waste your money because you got enough stuff and you got more bills, and yeah, don't worry about it." But like she was supportive, but like it was I didn't get the same kind of reaction that I guess I got from my dad. I feel like my dad was a bit more. eh, He was more like when he found out, he was like he's had all these questions, like or not. I'll be honest, I can't really remember that one that well either. We went on a trip to New York, your favorite place. Oh, New York City,
never been there.
but we were in the state, so
Yeah.
I was I almost met you. We are basically just a few miles apart, but we were in New York City and we're on vacation. And in downtime, I was because I was an idiot and I wrote my first book entirely on composition notebooks, like these, and so while on vacation, I was transferring it from my notebook to I had an iPad. Probably not a great way to, yeah, awful, awful idea. Should have just gone straight to the computer with the book. But I was transferring all that to my iPad on vacation. My dad had no idea what I was doing. After the fact, he's like, the whole time you were writing a book, like, oh, that's kind of cool and all this stuff. And um, my dad, he's been really supportive. Like he bought to the date, I think he's the only person that's actually bought merch from my store. He bought a giant poster with that book cover on it, which turned out looking awful, but it was, I'm grateful nonetheless. The poster was like this giant black poster, and then like the cover art right in the middle, like it was not. It was. I should probably take that off the website. Regardless, so I did that. He bought a T-shirt, bought the book, wanted me to sign it because my signature is so valuable, But yeah, my dad was or is probably the most supportive family member I have. My grandfather, I've talked about him. He read the book and left what is to date, I think, the only comment on it. If you want to read that comment,
Oh man, that's
go to
I
the
think that's
Amazon
the
webpage.
single greatest comment I've ever read on a book review in my life.
It is accessible. The webpage for that book is accessible from my website, tybyron.com. The first and only comment is from my grandfather, who that's all I'm going to say. It was quite a comment. I should also add, my grandfather, he reads a lot of books. He has read more books in his lifetime than I could ever hope to read, and so obviously his standards are fairly high. And that was the first book I ever published. So if that doesn't kind of give you an idea of what the comment might have been like, then it wasn't like a mean or rude comment. I'll say that. But yeah.
It was just funny.
It
was a grandparent comment if I've ever read one.
Yeah, it really is. I'm grateful that he even took the time to read it, because he might actually have been the first person outside of my editors who actually read that book, which is, pretty high level of support, because I don't think my dad's read it, even though he has the book, which I also don't blame him, because it's a long book. Who wants to? If you could only read X amount of books in your entire lifetime, do you really want that to be one of them? There's so many other books out there. I think it's worth it, of course, because it's such a great book. But I'm a little biased. Anyways, so I guess one thing I should throw out too is when it comes to me and my writing, like I wasn't public about it. So like, it sounds like you have been when it comes to your family, at least you had talked about writing to them, like when you were younger, more or less, or like they knew that you were writing.
Maybe a little bit. I don't really know. I mean, I remember having my mom try to convince my mom to read the book that I was writing, but it was just just a spin-off of books that I had been reading already. And
Mhm.
that's pretty much it. I didn't really do a lot of it when I
It's
was
like,
a kid.
oh yeah,
So I don't know. I don't even really, I kind of was private about it because it only really heightened in college, and then it took a dip, and then this is at its peak right now, which
Mhm.
I'm not really using it to my full potential, but
You're
here
using
we
it.
are.
Yeah.
I'm using it.
Yeah, it's like I was very private about my writing. I I don't honestly I don't know exactly why, but um, I didn't actually tell anyone about my writing until uh, close to when I released my first book, which is why it was like when I was doing the conversion from my composition notebook to my iPad when I was in New York. My dad had no idea I was even doing that because I didn't want to. I don't know. I didn't want to. I think I was afraid somewhat of I don't know what the right word is. You know, people's reactions. I don't know, just
Calling you
self
a
doubt
nerd.
and who knows. I mean, the whole number. Like the part of the thing is like you don't know what's going to happen or what's going to be said. Why are you wasting your time on this? Or oh, I want to read this. Or oh gosh, this is garbage. I mean, I don't know. For some reason I just didn't talk about it, and I hadn't talked about it all my life. So it was like by the time I was writing that book, and I was 21 or 22, I think, when I was writing it, I had been used to just not being public about it, so I just naturally didn't tell anyone about it until end up making the website for it. Or originally I made a website specifically for the book, fairlyhuman.com. Then I thought, well, what if I write a different book? I need a I need a better website, and so I picked a slightly better website name. And so obviously, like when you put your stuff out there in the public sphere, eventually, like someone's going to find out about it. So I don't know when or how, but I just started talking about it, to people, which was a really weird experience at first. Like when you go from not talking about something forever, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, I did this. You know, that was weird. Like, yeah, I don't know, but the weird thing was people at work, not like not at work now, but where I was working at the time. It so okay, so where we work at now, just over the last month or two, more people have found out about this podcast, about our writings. There's been kind of a I don't want to say
Up,
I don't want to say it's taken our place of employment by storm, but it's
an uptick.
yeah. And so I have previously experienced that when I was working at a different place back in 2017, and people were like, "Oh, yeah, I heard you're writing this zombie book," which is that, and then I would have to like explain myself to these people, and I'd be like, "This is so weird. I have never talked about like when I was talking about that book, it was like 2017. I had been writing it since 2015, so it's like it had all been under wraps, and so all of a sudden I'm trying to explain all this to people, and it was so weird to me, so foreign. It was neat though, it, like it's come to think of it, like I never would have done this podcast like 4 or 5 years ago. I would have been like, no way, I can't be on can't be on video talking about my stuff. That's crazy, but yeah, it's kind of cool. I don't know. That's that's my like that's my arc of being of writing and people
Yeah, part of me is
talking
like, oh,
about it.
I like how I have an audience, even though it's so small. Part of
Yeah,
all like also a part of me is like I kind of do it for myself more than anything else. Like obviously, yes, it's very cool to have, you know, my phone go off after I release a new story and see all these people. Well, before, not really now, but
yeah,
all these people going onto my website to check it out. And but overall, it's just for myself. It's for to see like I can actually accomplish something. Like I've been harping on this for the last month and a half, but I just need to suck it up and just like do my research and get this novel going because someday I might not be able to have the time to do it anymore. Like life happens and you might not be able to
that
do it.
that's an awful thought right there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like
I don't know
I
if
don't like that.
yeah,
I
I
don't
was gonna
like to
say
have that thought,
if I
but
was like I always need some amount of time to write. Because I've been writing all my life, like since I was a stupid kid, and so I've always enjoyed it. I want to say I've always enjoyed it. I think I've always needed that kind of outlet.
I'm slowly coming to realize it's not only something I enjoy, but it's also an outlet.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't think I could. Like the old idea is like, oh yeah, bottle everything up. But like I think that's what would happen if I could never write, because like in many ways, a lot of my stories are just kind of like things bottled up, being somehow pushed out in a more text-based form. But uh, it works. I feel like maybe psychological studies don't back that up. But it works for me. I feel like maybe. And maybe I'll have a mental breakdown in a couple weeks. Who knows? But
we all could have one of those.
true. But yeah, writing is fun.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see myself getting to that point, but it could you don't know what life is going to offer. So you just kind of have to go with the flow and be like, stop sitting on your phone on your bed and watching YouTube videos when you could be writing or doing research or something.
Yeah, I've been actually this is like a little off topic, but I've been doing so when I was a kid, I used to go to Universal Studios, Florida a lot. And so lately I've been looking at old videos of the place because it's like completely different from how it used to be. And now I'm thinking like, can I write a short story about like traversing this park back when it was in its heyday, or at least as I perceived it, as I experienced it. Although the more I think about it, the more it's like, this would be such a boring story. Nobody would be able to relate to it, because like I could talk about little things that like I remember that I, found to be really cool. But like the fact that none of these things exist anymore would make it difficult for other people who haven't seen them to have any kind of connection to them. So it would be like a super niche story, but I might still do it. I don't know. I've been really nostalgic for that place lately. Like I first went to that park in 2002. So like if you ever been to Universal Studios, just imagine that place literally 20 years ago, and then pair it up to what it is now, and it's like a different.
I've never been. I've been across the street, but I've never been inside.
It's a cool place. There were some really
oh, and I saw fireworks. I could see the fireworks from the hotel.
That's cool. That's always fun.
That was it.
Yeah, their motto used to be like ride the movies. So a lot of their rides were like you actually felt like you were kind of in whatever was going on. Like there was a Twister ride. You got to see this whole Twister thing, and
great movie.
Great movie as well. But you got to see like this sign would fly away, and this little Dorothy machine that had all little tiny balls in it that would go into the tornado that would fly away. There'd be cows, and there's an earthquake.
So it was okay. So it was based more of the Wizard of Oz, not the actual movie Twister.
No, it's based off the movie Twister. There's they call the thing in the movie Twister, it's Dorothy. It's the giant.
Oh, that's container. Right. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Call yourself a fan.
Sorry.
But then there's an earthquake ride that had been based off of the movie Earthquake, which nobody probably knows, from the 70s. Charlton Heston, good movie actually, for its time. But you're in this like subway train going down to a subway station in San Francisco, and there's this like 9.3 earthquake, whatever, 9.3 on the Richter scale, and the roadways collapse down. This tanker truck falls in, it blows up, and another tram comes by and it derails. Like they were really big on special effects, basically, is my point. There's a really cool King Kong ride back then that like you were on this, I think it was called the Roosevelt Island Tramway, and you would kind of like go through this part of New York City. Like they rebuilt part of New York City on a smaller scale, obviously, inside this giant building. I think they said it was like the size of 2 football fields. It was pretty huge, really cool though. Like you actually, like, level of detail is amazing. You see King Kong and he's like, it's really old tech, but really neat. But yeah, it's all gone. It's all they kind of like a lot of the rides now are more like 3D effects as opposed to like actual, you know, physical stuff. So I've been nostalgic for that kind of stuff lately. But I just can't think of a story that fits that. Honestly, I don't even know why I started this diatribe. Now to think about it. But yeah, that's my story on that. So anything else you want to add to this random
I,
collection of
I,
information, or should we
um,
move on to another question?
I don't, and I don't have anything to add. I just kind of keep it to myself, really. Nothing until I become like this New York Times bestselling author. I don't think much of my family will know unless they listen to the podcast briefly.
Yeah, I will say I haven't told anyone in my family about this podcast. So
And
some things never die. So
I think the only reason some know is because I put it on Facebook when I first started. I think.
yeah. My sister might know about this. I don't know though. She's the only one that might be able to hear about it from some people at work who are very vocal about it. Some of our biggest fans, you might say. Uh, anyways, I guess moving on to another interesting question. Have you ever considered writing under a pseudonym? This is something I've actually thought about. Um, like if I like, obviously, using your real name and attaching it to a story, it's whatever you write, you're attached to it,
Right.
to the name. But if you have a more like unorthodox story you want to write, or maybe if you want to get kind of like, let's say, political, maybe, writing it under a pseudonym might be able to deflect any potentially negative interactions, because obviously like certain stories could get more controversial, I guess. That's one way to get around it. Or maybe you just want to use a fake name. What are your thoughts on it?
I don't think I've ever thought about it. I know, I don't know if you've read the Hardy Boys before.
Long time
That
ago.
that is, I have actually a couple books on my nightstand. I have a small collection that my uncle actually gave me from when he was a kid back at home. Um, that was written under a false name, and so was um, Nancy Drew. It was the same author,
Really?
but
Oh,
they
I guess
used
that
two
makes
different
sense.
names. And neither one was the actual author's name. Uh, so I guess that was the first time I was introduced to it. The second time was if you read the series of unfortunate events, Lemony Snicket. Obviously, it's not
Yeah,
the name of that author. It's Daniel Hadler, I think.
I actually did not know that.
Yeah, yeah. And then the third one was, I get this. I don't know how true this is, but there's a series called Nikki Heat. It's a cop. It's a female cop narrative in New York City, and it's written by Richard Castle. But it was turned into actually a TV series too on ABC back in the early 2010s, I think, mid 2010s, and it's believed that they have like four successful authors, including James Patterson, like coming
Really?
together and like writing it. They kind of like play that narrative in the
That's
TV
interesting.
series, because I think a couple of them make guest appearances at like a poker table or something. But for me, I don't write anything that controversial to where I don't want to put my name, like I can't have like my real name attached to it.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it doesn't even have to be
unless the whole time
controversial.
unless the whole time series is seen as controversial, then whatever. But
It could just be something that's like outside of your
comfort
normal
zone.
genre or
Well,
comfort zone, something you just maybe you don't want, like you want to write it, but you don't necessarily want people to know that you wrote it, something like that.
because then can't you say that then you perceive it as controversial, quote unquote? Maybe not to the exact definition, but it's
Yeah, I mean, you could. I don't know if it would necessarily be controversial. Like maybe you wanted to write a story that's heavily based off of people you know, but you don't want them to connect the dots and see that it was you that wrote it or something like that, or something like that. It doesn't could be any number of reasons.
But I don't
or
know if I would
a
have
personal experience that you want to write, but it's not controversial, but you don't want people to know
about it. Yeah.
it was, based off of your life or someone you knew or something.
I don't know.
There's different reasons.
Yeah, there are different reasons.
I think there was when I was thinking of using it for a because like I obviously I dabble in politics, and so I have considered writing some sort of like dystopian stories that are pretty like potentially yikesy, that are heavily political, have like it can be, I don't know. Of course I pretend like anything I write is going to get any traction, but like it's one of those things where if I were to write it, do I want that to be like connected to me? I guess to where maybe it could be used against me in the future or something like that. Even though it's a work of fiction and it's not intended to be like a blueprint or something for a way of doing things. Not that would be the interpretation. It's just one of those things where like we kind of do live in a highly polarized society right now, and you never know. I guess.
Yeah. No, well, I'd ask you to give off like a couple pseudonyms, but I don't want you to reveal the secret in case you do that, and then that author that name magically appears on this book.
There was one name I used. I didn't use, but I thought of, which was, I think the name was like Don Drobit, and that was just all the letters of my name just kind of like rearranged. I forget what it's called. When you.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't remember. There's a term for it, which, like many things in my life, I cannot remember. But that was one funny name I thought of. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't have a hard time thinking of names. I'm sure I could come up with something clever that
I would have an
smart
issue.
Person could connect back to me, probably.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would have an issue because I would only come up with the freaking Italian names, and people be like, "Oh, we know who this is."
Yeah, Salvatore Cappuccino. That would be my guess. Maybe that'll be my pen name or my pen name.
Oh, that'd be good. You can use that because it's. I was thinking about it. It's just, or if I do use like a different name, I'll catch myself describing myself to like a T, and you're like, oh, well, yeah, it's not his name, but this is clear. I know this guy.
His name is, what is it? Anthony, Gabagoopacino, and he has a I Love Italy mug and a wife beater and a silver chain.
Gold.
Always carries around a cinder block because you never know when you're going to need one.
Pretty spot on. I mean, that's just pretty spot on. I mean, the only difference is I don't carry a cinder block on my person. It's in the bed of my truck.
Yeah. Just one or multiple?
Multiple.
Got to be prepared. You never know when you're going to have
and some rope.
And some rope. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it, folks.
Well, this is going to be the last podcast episode with me in it because we're going to have the feds on me by the end of next week.
Yeah. Organized crime is coming to an end, sir. Prepare to meet justice. Actually, you should save some of this for whenever we eventually write our book about
our book. Yeah, we need to, or
the warring parties of the cult versus.
I guess it would be
the Kamara family.
If you would like to leave a comment below, would you rather see us co-write a book or dabbling co-writing a short story just to see how our writings intertwine with each other? That would be good and interesting to see. I'm actually, we're getting off subject again, shocker, but we ended up having to write some sort of story, fictional story, and we were in a group, and I remember my friend and I, we were in the Madagascar, and I don't know how it went, but we
The film?
no,
Okay.
no, but we
Never know.
each, I think we had the beginnings the same, and then I think we crashed, like there was a plane crash, and then we went our separate point of view ways.
Plane crash. I forgot to put this
um,
away.
so we had our different, so we had our own separate stories, and then when we finally like found like the characters found each other on the island, we went word for word for till the ending. So that's something we could do. That's something we could do, or just have like a chapter based on. It was interesting. I don't remember what it was about. I couldn't tell you.
One thing we could
I'll
do is craft like a brief prompt and then have each of our factions respond to that prompt. So like maybe the news that the mayor is resigning, there's going to be an immediate special election. I don't remember exactly if it was if the two groups are going to fight over the mayorship or if it was the governorship, but we could use the mayorship as a sort of uh, surrogate idea. So like maybe the two factions, like how are they going to respond to this open seat? What what are the responses within their organizations? What are they going to start doing to try to maybe take that power? Do they have specific people in political positions already under their you know in their pocket, so to speak? And of course, like whatever we would choose to do, we have to make sure we're using the same structured world.
right.
Like you can't control the secretary of transportation while I also control, but like not that of course that's where the collaboration comes in. But we
Well,
could do something like that as a very brief short story, and then
and it is something simpler, as in like, yeah, mine can't be based in the fall, and yours is like the heart of summer.
yeah, it was a really sunny, hot day in December. Although it is Louisiana, so it's entirely
That's
possible
true.
it'll be pretty warm.
That is true.
Unless
that
it's
would,
January or February, in which case there's a bomb cyclone that's going to cover the state in snow for a couple of days.
yeah,
I think it happened last a week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
really.
Yeah, it was chilly. Yeah, like cold.
Right. No, I know. Yeah, no, I know. So sorry, so I could hear someone walking into the door. That's why I was like, what the hell?
Must have been a loud thud if they just walked right into the door. Dang. But anyways, yeah, we should definitely, honestly, regardless of, not to say that the audience's answer isn't important, but we should write the short story anyways.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know that the audience will answer.
Maybe we could write the short story and have pen names just to dabble in both of those to see if that would work. Watch it just pop off and like, oh, these two unknown authors are just spectacular.
Wouldn't that be something?
Like that's all it took was just to take our names off our writing.
Our names are so awful that they were just drowning out any potential chances of success.
Just absolutely egregious.
Yeah. Andrew?
Andrew.
Todd? What kind of name is that? Odd. But yeah, should go for it. We should work on that.
I think so. Just add it to the list of things that I need to do with my writing career.
Yeah, honestly, that's my pile of projects just grows and grows. Like I've only recently been able to actually start really checking off items like the Sound of Silence, which I just finished earlier this week. Sadly, I probably won't upload the full document until October because it's like a kind of like a Halloween-ish kind of story. It's kind of a thriller, I guess, and I always wanted to release it in October, so I think I'm going to do that. But the first 3 chapters are available on my website. Those dropped on Monday, I believe, last Monday. So whenever you see this, like a week and a half ago. So if you want to see the first 2 chapters, and actually, you know what? If you read the first few chapters and you like it and you want a few more chapters, let me know. I have the power to drop an additional 3 chapters.
You do have the power.
So of course that requires somebody to say, hey, can you do that thing? Anyways, though, what was I talking about? I was leading towards something, and then I lost it. Maybe it was just that. Oh yeah, project. Yeah, sorry, early onset dementia. That's what I have. But anyways, God, I sound like a madman, don't I? Yeah, I got that. That's out. I just wrote a short story about it's based off of like utopian works and stuff like that, and I've kind of built off of that using old project ideas. So I'm kind of recycling all this stuff, or recycling old prompts to write new stuff, and it's a pretty good productive couple weeks.
I guess I started a new short story. It has nothing to do with the time series. Finally, after God, that was a decently long project that I had been working on.
It took a lot of time.
Anyway,
it took a lot of time.
No, I got it. We don't need the after dark mic noise again. Once is enough.
No, well, I mean, I will say, I mean, not that I would ever do ASMR, but I have a pretty decent microphone here that
yeah,
I think it could. Yeah,
mine sounded like Autobots roll out, and it wasn't very good.
It sounds like some of those Vine videos where they like distort the sound to the point where it's like
ear piercing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I think I'm 4 pages in on that. So maybe by the time this airs, I'll have it done and on my website. Be on the look at that. I don't know. We're still teetering on the ending. I think I know where it's gonna go, but I don't know. Maybe we'll go the more cliche route. We'll see.
Either way, I'm sure it'll be the cat's meow. But yeah, I'm working on adding to my like dystopia world, because I still want to craft short stories to kind of like what you were doing with your novel.
I think I need to do that again too. Flesh it out.
Yeah, it helps.
I was actually I just came up with an idea on the top of my head there. Just like use well, sort of to an extent. I don't know, continue. We could talk about it off air. I don't want to give any away secrets.
Fair enough. It's like my story or my book. It's, I'm slowly like coming to terms with it being my like. I won't use the term magnum opus, but I don't really want to use that term either. It'll be like, easily the biggest project since that, and that was only big because it was the first real book I ever like made. Technically it isn't, but it is. It'll be like the next big stepping stone for me. It'll be the dawn of a new era, one might say. I mean, when it's all said and done, it should be probably the biggest book I've ever written, in terms of, length. It's going to be huge, basically, and I want to spend a lot of time in it. We're building up the world, doing the research. I want to do everything right, and so part of doing that is fleshing out not just the characters, but the world itself. And that's where the short stories in the world certainly help, because there's just so much that I want to put into the story. It's on one part a classic dystopia, but part of what makes it dystopian is it is several factors. It's a declining climate and its effects on individual people and societies, entire cities having to be abandoned because of rising sea levels and inability for seawalls to contain the growth of the water. I mean, stuff that we kind of see today. Actually, there's I want to say, honestly, I can't remember the town or a city called Jakarta, I believe. I don't know. There's a country had to recently move its capital further inland because the city itself is just slowly being swallowed up by the growing tides. And there's a lot of the stuff like that I want to put into this book, but it's not just environmental. It's also dystopian in terms of the kind of the growing relationship between like the state and multinational corporations. Like you end up having, in my story at least, this isn't really a huge spoiler or anything, but you end up having a series of monopolies in this first book, anyways, that have a really close relationship with the government. And so government policy is thus dictated by the interests of these multinational mega corporations. So you end up having that sort of, kind of cyberpunky world, really. And so all these things are happening, and there's a small, there's obviously the people that are underneath all this trying to like find a way out, but it's dystopian, and it's not easy to fix something that is so, heavily messed up and fixed in a way that it's impossible to actually have a good outcome for everyone, especially when it's technically a system that, in the books anyways, at the very least, has been in the progress of happening for centuries, or for decades at least, going back pretty far back. So actually in some ways you can kind of see, like, maybe I guess some of the inspirations could come from the sort of connections you see between government and corporations right now, even in our time, whether it's in the terms of bailouts or the donations that some politicians receive from certain sectors of or certain industries, So it's like taking that and then like amping it up even further to the point where it's, blatantly obvious that representatives are, they're elected by the people, but they're not representatives of the people, And so, but unfortunately, in this book, we're kind of beyond the point of fixing it. Some might say we're at that point now. I disagree, but in this book, it's, too far gone. So you got that issue, you got the environmental issue, you got social clashes. Like there's, I've got this wonderful book here, Culture Wars. Guess what makes an appearance in this book that I'm working on? A continued clash of two different versions of what this world should be. And that's a lot. I'm almost out of breath talking about it. So I gotta really, I gotta really work on that. But I mean, culture war thing is it's also part of a side project. But yeah, that's gonna be, when that comes out, I want that to be like, I want to actually try to find a publisher for it. But I don't know when I'm gonna be done with that. Like I'll be out of school in May. I'll have plenty of time to put into it, but I think it's going to take a lot of time just to really craft the right narrative, to craft the right world, to craft the right way of telling the story. Because I'm not even sure how to tell the story yet. But yeah, life of a writer.
You're way more complex thinker than I am when it comes. I'm just like, okay, when does this third person get murdered?
Well, part of why, this is part of why it's a little overwhelming, this work I've got, because there are so many variables and so many conflicts. And of course, like, conflicts is what, for me anyways, drives the story along. So like, there's going to be so many conflicts. So like, do I focus on all the conflicts? I mean, there's going to be one major conflict, which is basically the balance of power between, people, governments, and then corporations. But like, and then also, but like there's two or three like major conflicts, and then, I mean, honestly, I could probably name hundreds of miniature conflicts that result just from those. Like, what is the effects of that connection between states and corporations on, the people? And what is, it's the year 2060, and this book, what does it look like then? What does what does the environment look like, or rather, what have the effects of environmental degradation? Yeah, what of that? How does that manifest itself? I mean, I'm thinking of like, will the Amazon rainforest still be there, or will it have been all cut down for timber and biomass and all that stuff? And there's a bunch of things to look at, and each and every one of those will have certain responses. I can see that you're yawning, so
No. Sorry. No, you're
pass
good.
the torch back over to you.
No, it's interesting because you can see how complex.
It's interesting.
Oh, shut up. But you can see how complex your thought process is, and how different conflicts, like all, in the end, they intertwine for this all big overall, I guess, or not conflict, but issue.
Yeah.
So, I mean, then you compare it to mine, where it's just like crime.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at
I
my
mean,
last
two
book was
different.
like, there's zombies. We better kill zombies. We killed zombies. Yay, we win. I mean, it, you kind of like work, like you start with what you know, but then you start kind of like building on that where you can, like that was kind of like post-apocalyptic. In a way, this new book I'm working on is, but it's in a way it's apocalyptic in a way. I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, I don't know. It's the, the grandest scaled thing I've worked on ever. That's why it's like kind of overwhelming,
Yeah.
Like I might make it sound like it's simple and easy for me, but like it's daunting, to be honest.
Well, yeah.
Man,
Especially since you're gonna unfortunately lose this spark that you have created the last
I hope
like
not.
2 weeks.
Yeah, well,
I
I mean,
mean,
I'm not even going to start writing this thing until later on in the year, if I'm lucky. I still have another project I want to knock out first, but yeah, I mean, eventually the spark will die.
and then it
Which
magically
is
appears.
depressing.
I'm still waiting for like my consistent spark, because I'll get it
Yeah,
gradually, type a couple pages, and then that's it of whatever. And then, because I think the last time I really had it was the beginning of the Irrational series. Well, excuse me, Time series, and
yeah,
that was a long time ago.
yeah. I mean, the last time I had any kind of real spark like this was I want to say it might have been summer of 2021. So it's been a while, I mean, 7 months seems like a while, at least 8 months,
Well, I think
something
I
like
could
that.
say this. I could say the same, because that's when I really, had my prologue done, critiqued, think it was perfect to put on my website, and then I had like 4 or 5 pages
Mhm.
of manuscript too, and that was in I think a week and a half time frame, and then it slowly went to bye bye, and I haven't
Yeah,
gotten that consistent overarching thing again. I need to like, it's terrible that I haven't been reading as much as I need to be. I'm on my
yeah,
phone too much, way too much.
yeah. I mean, I haven't really, like, aside from textbooks or other book materials required for class, I really haven't read much myself. And most of what I have read is like I've been reading a little bit of like nonfiction stuff, like this book. I think I've mentioned this before. It's an environmental book, but it's supplemental material for this book I'm working on. So I haven't really read some of the stuff that I want to read necessarily. I mean, not to say I don't want to read that. It's interesting. A little boring sometimes, but it's interesting. But I mean, that goes into the whole conversation about research and stuff like that, which we could probably
Yep,
get into on the next episode. Because that research is like, it's super important, but it's super time consuming. Because
it
you want to get
is.
everything right. You don't want to, if you mess up on any of the like factual information in your book, you could lose your potential reader. If
Yeah,
you gotta start from a foundation of fact and truth, and then build your narrative off of that. And
I
that's
mean,
kind of what I'm trying to do with this dystopia book, because like I want all the environmental stuff to be not just made up BS. I want it to be grounded in actual, scientific consensus.
I think I mentioned briefly that it
Although
took me a
time
while.
frame might be a little off. So
I think I mentioned briefly last week that I like, it took me a while just to find a map of a town, an actual town, to use as a blueprint for my own town, and I still haven't picked. Well, I haven't looked. I haven't really looked further into it, but it's, you look at them and you're like, okay, this works because of this, and this, but it doesn't work because of this, and then technically this works better with this town, but the lake doesn't fit to the demographic that, or the geography that I want it to, to work, and blah blah blah. And then you're like, okay, can you intermish the two?
yeah, that's
And
what
then
I
you
would
got to
think.
work, and then you got to work on figuring out what ones you want to, like, will they actually fit, blah blah blah, can you make them fit and work well? So it's
And
just a process.
in the world of creative writing, anything is a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
True story.
That is very true.
For example, you could have a 10-minute train ride from New York City all the way to Los Angeles.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true. Technically, you could do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Really crazy trip, but you know.
It's like, cool. I was on acid the whole time.
Yeah. I was on acid the whole time. I'm in South Dakota. What the hell?
What the hell?
Where am I? Yeah. I guess it's time. That's the notification that we've
that we've exceeded our limits when someone brings up acid.
yeah. Acid trips for the win.
Oh man, that'd be interesting concept to do, like writing on acid. I don't even know if you could.
I will say I've always wanted to write under the effects of psychedelic drugs.
I don't trust.
Do it.
I don't trust myself to do that. I feel like I would have some sort of anxiety attack.
I mean, good. Yeah, I feel like it could be very interesting, to say the least. But can't exactly just go to Walmart. I mean, I technically I could acquire some. I know people, but like I don't plan on pursuing that at the moment. Maybe if I ever make it out to like Arizona again, maybe I'll get some peyote, check out the desert, and then write some cool stories. Maybe not though, because Arizona's a while, so it's a ways away from Florida.
It is.
Yeah,
that it is.
Yeah. For those who are geographers out there, you know what I'm talking about. All right. Anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for putting up with whatever it is that we do on these episodes. And thanks for tuning in to the 20th episode. Of course, if you count the 2 interviews you did, this is technically 22, but I don't know. Those are like a separate show. Those are like the that's from the spin-off series. Okay. But for our prime time show, this is episode 20. And we're really grateful to have you here, especially those of you that have been watching over the last few weeks, because our view counts over the last 3 episodes have really gone up on a really strange, unprecedented amount. You go from 11 to 30, and it's just like, whoa, what happened?
Hold the phone, because I haven't been tweeting about it.
Yeah.
Do that for free. I have been slacking in that department.
Yeah. So whoever it is that's out there, even if you're pausing the video to take screenshots, thank you for the views. We appreciate it. Don't forget to click that like button now, and
yes,
don't forget to subscribe, because you know that helps. It helps please the algorithm gods, and it gets our videos out to you know, other realms of the planet. So yeah, check out our Twitters, check out our websites for more awesome,
you know how to
stories.
access our websites now too. That episode has officially been
and if
released.
you don't, and you missed last week's episode, we went through our websites. Very fascinating, informational material. So check that out, and check out our websites. And then, you know, tell us what you thought in the comments down below. Or if you're on Spotify, just think about it.
Think about it. Yeah, think about it and give us a 5-star rating. That would work too.
And tweet at this guy or something. NDS Kamara 11. Isn't that your Twitter handle? I have no idea what I forget. It was like Mr. Italy guy, right?
Yeah, it's Mr. Italy guy. Yeah. That's exactly
tomato
what
sauce
it is.
And meatballs. I don't know. I can't remember.
And every time you click on, my profile, it just Frank Sinatra plays in the background of your phone.
Yeah.
Just like old school MySpace days.
You know, I never
had a MySpace. I never had one either. It'd be interesting.
Like I was in, like, people I knew had MySpace accounts, but I didn't have a very large internet presence until kind of late. Like I didn't have internet for a little while, you know, which is weird to think about. And
we had dial-up for a long time. I think we got Wi-Fi I want to say like maybe 8 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, probably. Well, I'd say like for me, it was by the time I got into high school, it was like, hey, I need internet to do projects because now,
Yeah, that's probably when it was for me too.
like schools don't rely on encyclopedia collections anymore or libraries. You gotta search for peer reviewed journal articles and all that stuff like that. So yeah, say I missed out on the MySpace. Missed
I
out
don't think
on.
I don't think I missed out
Oh,
per se.
fair enough. I missed out on online video games. I was kind of unfortunate.
I did miss out on that too, but I was never really a video game person. I pretend I am, but I'm really not.
I was a video game person, but I was only a single player video game person. So, which to be honest with you, I have a lot of great memories. So I don't really regret that at all. I'd rather, I'd rather get deep into single player games than just kind of like surface level multiplayer, uh, player versus player combat stuff. So, yeah. But, anyways, if you want to talk about video games, we can start up a video game channel. I can talk about Fallout for hours and about how it not only influenced and inspired me, but also influenced that book right there. A lot of, obviously Fallout's a post-apocalyptic world. So, that's kind of what that is. Although it's early post-apocalyptic, like it just kind of became post-apocalyptic. Like the apocalypse kind of, I don't know. Maybe the apocalypse is actually still happening. Who knows? How do words work? Not me. Anyways, thank you for watching. And we'll see you in about a week. So yeah, have a Merry Christmas.